Hello and welcome to Shop Talk, or Sprayer Talk, however you want to position it or think about it. But at the end of the day, it is March 13th, and there's a lot of change going on in the world right now, and there's a lot more incentive to maybe spend a little more time by yourself, a little more isolation, a little less socializing in a group. So I thought, what is something you as the farmer at home can do, and something that is important to do to make sure you're maximizing the efficiency out of your sprayer when it comes go time. And also, what is something that if a producer really wants to get out of the house, because maybe there's a recommendation that they do a little more housework around because they're not going to town anymore, what's something they can do? And I thought, perfect, here's the idea. It is a quick service of your sprayer and looking over your sprayer to making sure that it's field ready. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't know what I'm talking about. So I thought I'd bring in the expert. Ivan Catelli is joining me from Enns Brothers here, and I'm gonna turn it over to him and let him give some Cole's notes of a few key things to look at while you're in the shop, isolating and quarantining yourself.
Yeah, you bet. So no better place than to do it all this preseason check over of the machine before the season starts, right? We get oftentimes we're parked at the end of the crossing, maybe something's not quite right, booms are bent, booms are broken, boom track's not working. Just a couple things we can kind of look over.
I do remember people furiously just wanting to put equipment into the shed last fall and not look at it until next year. I think that happened.
We had a lot of guys that were just parking things, putting them away now. And now's the time to start facing reality again and look over these machines that maybe took a little more a beating than we were hoping for, right? So let's just kind of quickly look over a few things. Obviously making sure the booms are straight, suspension's working right. Kind of want to make sure that the cab filters are updated or changed out. Usually 12 months is about the limit on those filters. And
I know at least in the heart of the Red River Valley, a lot of those filters filtered a lot of insecticide last year, just due to high flea beetle and grasshopper pressures.
Right, so they won't filter it anymore if we leave them in too long. So I guess just moving on, we want to make sure that the machine is obviously suspension's working the way we want it to. Booms are straight, like I've said a few times. Once you start getting that hinge bent up, broken, auto boom height's not working the way you want it to, and then you end up planting a boom maybe into the bottom of the ditch. Then you got a longer wait again, fixing a boom, straightening out a boom. So a couple other things we often look for. Obviously making sure you don't have any leaks anywhere on the machine. We always kind of...
Have you ever seen anything freeze in Manitoba winters? You know, maybe a little water or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes a lot of guys are maybe doing their winterizing themselves. They forget to open a valve and it doesn't let any antifreeze through. And I guess one of them, speaking of opening valves, when you do your winterizing, dual flow meters. If you winterized it, you opened both flow meters. You never told it in the cab that maybe you're running both flow meters, so you got product running by both of them. It's supposed to be 5 gallons an acre.
So that would be double the rate then you're putting on.
Yeah, absolutely double the rate. Yeah.
So that would probably get pretty expensive in today's cost of egg products.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing in the cab telling you you're putting on double until you realize you've done half the acres you're supposed to do. So a couple other things we usually look for. Strainers are often have taken maybe a beating over winter, have some sediments in them. So giving them a quick clean. Obviously spring fertilizer will be top of mind going in after last fall. No, not too much fertilizer got put on. So as far as strainers go, usually 50 mesh strainers about the finest we'd want to go. Any finer than that, you start having trouble with the density of the fertilizer. And then I guess also on pond water note, we get oftentimes a lot of guys are running just dirty water. Nozzles get worn out. Don't take it for granted because it shows well. It's not broken, it's not cracked, it's not leaking everywhere. That maybe that nozzle isn't working the way it should be. There are options out there to test them. There's spray testers. But then we get sometimes we get worn out nozzles, and then your application is maybe not as equal, not as even. Spray pattern is a little...
That sounds like a recipe for breeding resistance in weeds.
Yeah,
actually.
sure.
Yeah, which we don't want, right?
We don't want that. And then spray chemical complaints, usually oftentimes not always the chemical's fault. Happens often, it's application error. So on that note, application error, there's a lot of things that we can document.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So documenting, making sure that display is set up properly, making sure you've got the new fields you picked up this year, the new chemicals you'll be applying. Make sure that those are all in that display the way you want them to be. And
from an agronomist perspective, I would say that one of the biggest challenges is when something goes wrong is trying to figure out what actually happened. And that very well might involve going back to that monitor, figuring out rates, volumes, that kind of information might be able to be solved or figured out as to what goes wrong.
At least getting more information.
Absolutely.
To finding the culprit maybe to the thing. So and I guess lastly, I get a lot of calls on this is GPS accuracy, making sure everything's all set up properly. We've got section control, we've got everything in these machines, right? And making sure that you've paid a lot of money to get that added signal. Make sure that it's up to date, that your subscription is current and all that. You don't want to go to the field again. We get a lot of calls on day one of seeding, and then when sprayers start rolling out that they're not totally satisfied with their accuracy, and it's because they've gone back to the free signal. So if there's any other questions as they're looking over their sprayer, who's the best person to get a hold of? Yeah, so every Enns Brothers location has a guy like me, a solution specialist, one or two. So call your local dealership and we'll gladly help you out. Usually most guys, if you don't know who your solution specialist, talk to your salesman and we'll help you out. Well, that's great. Thank you very much for coming out, Ivan. I appreciate your time. And for those of you at home that are looking for something to do, we've got a project for you. At the end of the day, a lot of this information is just to really help you get more out of your sprayer when you're going to the field, and hopefully at the end of the day giving yourself a chance to maximize yield potential. That's what it's all about. And I guess as well, if maybe a last second plug here, if this is something maybe you're a little overwhelmed with, give Enns Brothers a call. We've got service programs as well. We can look over the machine for you if you're feeling like you maybe don't have time or the capacity to do this. So thank you very much. All right, back out of the quarantine shop and back into my quarantined office. Ivan, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. And a quick download on 7 different things that are important to look at before hitting the field that are simple and easy for anyone to do. What I did mention at the start of the video, there is a test. You can find it on our website. I'm serious. No, I'm just kidding. Number 1 though, quick review, so you guys don't forget. Check your cab filters, check your booms. Number 3, check your suspension. Number 4, check your filters and valves. Number 5, check your nozzles and make sure you're using the right nozzles for the right product and the right application rate. If you have any questions, download these apps. Simple, easy, filter out the exact nozzle you should be using in the right conditions. Number 6, update your monitor. And number 7, check and recheck your GPS to make sure it's working accurately. Thank you very much. Hopefully that allows you to catch something on your sprayer before you're hitting the field.